All together now. Matias countdown.
3, 2, 1.
That was pretty good.
I'm gonna close the door real quick.
Oh yeah, okay. By the way, from the TikTok or Instagram, I've seen this some app advertised where it's I think a Chrome extension. It advertised itself as like a easy way to make tutorials that you just activate it, then you like click stuff like click download for Firefox here and then do everything, and it basically creates a documentation out of that. Have you guys seen it?
I've seen those. There's like testing tools to like create steps to reproduce with screenshots and everything. And I think I think Windows has something like that built in. Like
testing tools, but like it creates like a really nice looking documentation.
Yeah, I think Windows has something like that built in. I saw one of those TikTok or something.
Is it like, does it make like a video or something?
It's like screenshots and a timeline of like
but
like this, do this. And
also maybe GIFs.
GIFs?
GIFs.
Don't you mean GIFs?
GIFs.
GIFs.
I mean, maybe. Anyways, because sometimes I found myself like when I need to document something that I'm doing, and the Azure docs are not quite like perfect for that, then I feel like stupid, kind of like taking screenshots and doing this work.
There's a steps recorder for Windows that's built in.
Or built in.
Like you can just press Windows key and start typing steps.
In a typical Windows or Microsoft fashion, the documentation is really boring looking, and it doesn't even show the end product in there.
What do you want? Fucking blinking lights and code highlighting in a fucking
I mean, I want to see what it creates.
common man's documentation.
I want to see what it creates. But
oh yeah, well that could be useful.
yeah.
I really need a new chair. This chair is just complete.
I have pillows strapped into this one. Give me a good posture.
Pillows strapped into it.
What do you guys think about short form content like the thing that TikTok brought?
I think it's brain rot, but it's so addicting.
Yeah.
I feel sometimes sorry, Lauri.
I try to keep myself out of it because I feel like when I like the days when I consume a lot of those, then my focus is shit. Because like I'm used to watching like these 10 seconds videos. Like I can consume like 50 of them easily. And then like if I try to do any real work that day, then like I'm not gonna get my focus at all. Do you guys have the same?
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of the same. Like my colleague was saying today that he was like, he's been getting into YouTube Shorts and he's like, just checks out one short and then whoop, 20 minutes go by. This is just like the form of content is just too addicting to be consumed, really. Like I tend to only watch those if there's someone I follow that created one, but I won't go to the next one because that's a slippery slope.
But sometimes it's so good.
Yeah, they're so good.
Yeah,
that's the problem.
It's the weird pride of your algorithm. And that's like partly what I feel when I share the videos with someone. I'm like, look what my algorithm brought me. Like I have the best sense of humor.
Yeah, I mean sometimes the algorithm is just straight fire and you can just spend like 1.5 hours on some like half a minute contents.
Yeah, but do this. Go, like for example in our Instagram chat, go a week behind and see what you shared. And it's not funny anymore. That happens to me constantly.
What do you mean? Like it's
like when as I said, like when I'm sharing it, I can share like 3-4 straight because I think they are so funny. But then I scroll back and I see them like a week later. Then the meta has changed, and I'm like, Well, this ain't funny. Like, I don't see the humor.
I mean, this is still funny. What my PS5 sees.
Whoever thought to put that 360 camera on their forehead?
Oh, it's on their forehead. Like, the perspective is so confusing.
I mean, yeah, that's why it happens, because like it's 360 and you are the root of it. Like, it's here.
It's just so confusing.
What kind of things do you get in your algorithm though? that you don't share so regularly?
Actually, like, I'm not getting anything that I wouldn't. Let me rephrase that. I'm not getting content that shouldn't be in there.
Oh yeah, I mean, it knows what draws your attention for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean,
Tech TikTok.
I mean, there's the subculture of like booba of everything. Like, the gym is an easy one. There's always like the booba side of gym videos and that. But now it's in tech. So it's like, what next? What is more unsexy than tech? And still, like, that attracts people.
I get, like, my algorithm gives me like loads and loads of stuff to do with like the gym and things. And then weirdly on Instagram, I don't get anything related to tech at all.
I had this like strange phase a couple of weeks ago on my Instagram where like I haven't consumed any Paramore content like in the last few years, and suddenly half of my suggestions are Hayley Williams fan pages, and I have no idea why. But like, they just started popping up everywhere after they made a comeback, and for some reason it started suggesting all of them to me.
I imagine they have something like it's not just what like you like or what you've regularly viewed. It's probably like, hey, you like these things and this other person also views these things, but they also like this other thing, so it's probably likely that you would like it as well. I guess that's how it works.
I mean, that's the root of the like machine learning recommendations. Like, the people who look like you, like data-wise, consume this kind of content. I mean, no one looks like me, because like.
Have you guys seen those TikTok speed runs, where they like try to get to a certain section of TikTok with a pure, like fresh off the boat algorithm?
I don't have TikTok, so.
Like I don't either, but there's like YouTube videos where like trying to get to, for example, prison TikTok. So prison videos. So somebody who has a phone in prison filming TikToks. And when you start your like TikTok journey, you have to be careful not to like on any Spanish videos, because if you do, it will only recommend you Spanish videos from there on, and you can't get off of it.
Oh, so you have to like game the algorithm or something?
Yeah, you have to game the algorithm. Like, as soon as you see some like crime or any like hostile TikToks, you have to like, comment, and like watch it a couple of times, scroll away, scroll back, and then the algorithm is like, you really like this shit, don't you? And then it starts feeding you that shit.
Oh man.
I mean, that's why.
But then you accidentally watch one Spanish TikTok, and then you're on the Spanish side again. It's like, for some reason, it has a huge bias for Spanish TikTok.
Yeah, but I mean, that's why TikTok became so popular, because the algorithm is so powerful.
Yeah.
Like, that's one of the sole reasons for it. But actually, like, it's so surprising how much of the internet content is actually Spanish. Because, like, we've gotten used to that, like, American streamers can, if they are, like, the talk of the town on that week, then they might get 100,000 viewers, and that's like really, really good. But then there's like some Spanish streamers that regularly get like 200k, like they just float on it.
Yeah, just like streaming FIFA or Fortnite.
Yeah, just a regular day. 200k. Like the Spanish side of things is like huge.
Is there
Lauri, 100k ain't no thing.
is there like a difference like on YouTube and Twitch? You kind of build a community around your content. Is TikTok the same? I don't know really.
I think TikTok is more like touch and go, so you don't really like you follow millions of people or you a lot of people, and you can like get a lot of likes, like millions of likes if your video just happens to go viral on the algorithm without having like any followers at all.
Yeah, it's actually one thing that I've heard talked lately a lot, that TikTok, even though you can get a lot of followers in there, but it's near impossible to convert those into any other platform.
Yeah, there's no retention at all. You can get followers and likes, but there's like no retention.
Yeah, because like if you talk about Twitch streamers, well, the regular cycle that everyone does is that you make YouTube videos out of your Twitch streams and people watch those and the convert rates are good. But in like TikTok, there's no such thing.
Yeah, like I really enjoy watching the Primogen on Twitch, but I also enjoy watching his videos on YouTube.
Yeah, and like the meta nowadays is just make like YouTube shorts out of your Twitch stream, advertise, like cross-advertise them.
The meta, the content meta.
Yeah.
What did you call it?
I don't know, it just makes me laugh. Like everything is like a meta now.
The content creators call it the meta.
Oh,
Because they're gamers like that.
I guess everyone's gaming the algos though. So.
What I realized today that it's tough to be a tech influencer. It's
posted 2 pictures and ran out.
It started off easy. Like I posted a selfie with a coffee cup. Good morning, gamers. And it was like, yeah, easy. I took it with my camera and uploaded it to Instagram. Then the next one, let's just take a setup picture. Then I was like, well, what do I do now? Like, I should have like a backlog of stuff to just publish there and create this parasocial relationship with the people. But it's like, well, I was thinking like, well, I'm working, so maybe I can show some code things. Then I was like, well, my code is under NDA. Like, I can't show these, like these are not for anyone else's eyes. So it's like,
I mean, it's probably a benefit to society not to see your code. So.
yeah.
True.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't really follow any kind of tech influencers on Instagram, though, I guess.
Yeah, and me neither. Like, I try to teach the algorithm, like, no, I don't. Because most of them are just...
Yeah, I try, like, on Instagram, I want to get away from tech and reminded of things about work, I guess, so it's nice to just look at Booba or something.
also it's like, because when I wasn't working in tech yet, like the threshold for a good video was pretty low, because like number one thing that I was dreaming about, working remotely. So just seeing like day in the life of a programmer videos where they just like wake up, go to Starbucks, get back home and don't do coding at all and like just chill and attend meetings from home. Like that's the dream, and you like watch those like
yeah, like when you're not in the circles, you're like, oh, this is so cool and this is good content that I could just watch all of these that the algorithm feeds me. But after you like work in tech for a couple of years, you're like, yeah, no, I don't really give a shit.
Like that's
give me like a
that's the first thing when you see it. But then like there's other things, like trying to find a good community, like Discord community or any other, like even like some meetup groups that are actually on the level that interests you. It's so difficult because everything is catered to like beginners and everything is filled with beginners, so everything is like made for them to make beneficial for them. But like when you are in the field and you are actually like applying yourself, you are putting like wanting to learn advanced stuff, it's really difficult to find those circles, and then you find that you are alone doing these things.
Yeah, I think that's why conference so popular for people, because I feel like the people who go to tech conferences, especially those like focused on broader stuff like architecture or shit, then like the people who go there are usually people who have worked in tech for a while. So you can really find topics that are like kind of dry, but when you're into this stuff, you really like them. And like some kind of like a design pattern, or some kind of like a containerization pattern, or how to deploy microservices. Like it sounds so dry, but when you're in the field, it's like good actual content, and then you can like meet some like-minded individuals there.
Yeah, like when I started out, like everything on YouTube was really interesting. You could just load up like some Billy Basic Hello World tutorial thing and you'd be like blown away. But yeah, I think like recently when I've been on YouTube and stuff, the things that are really sort of captivate me are definitely like the really long videos that go really in depth on more complex subjects. And then like just watching old conferences and stuff on really weird niche topics but go super in depth onto them. They're kind of interesting.
They're so interesting, and like I've been actually like binging some Jonathan Blow VODs the couple of days at work, just like put on a 4-hour Jonathan Blow rant on the other screen and write some code.
That guy can rant for sure. Have you seen that rant when he's talking about Visual Studio?
Yeah. Just type YouTube Jonathan Blow Visual Studio. Like at one point he takes a slipper out of his foot and just like hits the computer.
I know that kind of frustration though when you're like using something.
Like you know this is a senior developer. He has a webcam on, but he doesn't care how it looks. He doesn't even care to look at it.
Yeah, like this is like a really intelligent person.
Right.
He has hard opinions, and I like that. Sometimes I don't agree with them, but like he has a lot of good opinions and he can back them up a lot of the times. But like he's seen some shit. Yeah, and like he's currently writing his own programming language that can be used for game development, and he's writing a game with that programming language. Like
this man hasn't stepped his foot into the office in this decade. Maybe in this century.
That's maybe too in depth for me, writing my own programming language. That's too much.
Yeah, that's what turns me down always, is like writing your own language. Like is it just like a hobby project? Because will anything become out of it?
I mean, he had his reasons, because he wanted to create a language catered for game development. So it had like a direct use case, and it had a lot of good parts, like focused on memory management and focused on stuff that games actually require. But like, you do that with C, but then you get bored with C, and you can't really go lower than that at that point. So
I mean, I think those kind of projects are really good. I think like maybe the end goal isn't necessarily to have a product at the end of it, or like something that someone could use. But look, if you're making your own programming language, you're going to learn a lot of how these things work along the way. Like recently I started trying to learn Rust. It's a little bit of a steep learning curve. I've noticed, and it really feels like I've gone back to like basics with programming. Like if I program in like in Go or Python, I feel comfortable. Like I can just maybe have some docs open and I can just get in that flow state. Whereas like with Rust, I've been struggling a lot. But I noticed there's like some good books online and things and about how to write your own like basic operating system in Rust and run it on things like Raspberry Pi Pico and things. And like I kind of want to have a go at that, and I don't want to have like an operating system out of it at the end of it. Like I'm not going to be like, hey guys, check out my new like sweet operating system, because like it's going to be shit. It's probably not even going to support like threading or like drivers. It's gonna be like the most basic thing there could be. But what I'm hoping to achieve from it is learn a little bit more about the Rust programming language, and also how computers work at that kernel level.
Yeah, I mean, in that it's of course beneficial, I'm not denying that, but wouldn't most of your problems that you are solving problems that you can't really apply to many other things?
Oh yeah, like this has no real application to my day-to-day work at all.
So that's where my issue is.
I mean, like stuff like memory management isn't an issue for most developers nowadays, because such abstracted high-level languages that really do the garbage collection and everything for us, so we don't have to give a shit about our memory, for example. So if you learn memory management and pointers and everything, it's kind of stuff that doesn't really translate into your day-to-day work, but there are some concepts that might translate. Like there's always something that can be kind of translated into the actual work life, your stuff, but there's also a lot of stuff that doesn't get translated.
Oh yeah, like my work is definitely all within userland, so yeah, like learning embedded programming has no benefit at all, and it's not something that I'm going to be writing on my CV either. But I know, like, I don't know, I'm just interested in computers, so it's just interesting to learn something. Like I have like that thirst for new knowledge and stuff, and
but you're not gonna go to your boss to be like, can we write our next data pipeline in C?
No,
like, that's not gonna happen.
And like with Rust as well, like it's I think everyone says it's a really good language, but the problem with it is I think everyone will agree, it takes a long time to write anything in Rust, because you with Rust you're paying off technical debt straight away, whereas with like a more high level language you have an opportunity to write things out quickly but introduce technical debt, I guess. So because of that, I'm not gonna learn Rust in my own time and then go to work like in a couple of months time and go to my boss, oh hey, I've been learning Rust, I think the next time we have to do some custom integration or write some little piece of software, I'd never suggest using Rust, because I'd be that guy. Like someone in 5 years time will join the team or something, and they would have to fix that project, and I'll be like, maybe I've moved on somewhere else, and they're gonna be like, yeah, this guy wrote it in Rust. No one knows how to program in Rust.
Yeah, I mean,
and what makes it worse is he didn't even know Rust that well, so it's a complete trash.
That's the worst part.
Yeah, and there would be no documentation. The README is just like nothing really.
Yeah, I mean that is true with a lot of like these new languages that are surfacing, or at least gaining popularity quick, that in 5 years maybe no one even bothers to learn it. But I feel like the case with Rust is that it might actually be the next big thing. even though I hate to say that, but
it will, because I think Linux kernel development is like adopting Rust, and that I think that's like a gold standard for like if they have been just like sitting at C and C++ for so long, and they're like, okay, Rust makes our job a lot easier. It can be like really getting popular, and when we might be getting those like abstractions that allow us to do our jobs without the whole huge hassle of writing Rust, then we might be getting like more like applications that we work on, like web-based applications or APIs or data pipelines written in Rust. But currently it's not really plausible. It needs to be like, there needs to be a lot more of a tooling and a bigger abstraction between the actual Rust and what we are working on to make it feasible in our day-to-day.
Yeah. But I mean, in my field, like in data, a lot of the data tooling are now being rewritten with Rust. Like the data field is really adapting it.
I mean, like the web development field is also, because until now, pretty much all of the bundlers and web development tooling that built the projects and everything have been written in JavaScript, because that's the language of the web and everybody's using it. But people are getting tired of the slowness of JavaScript, and there's like two ships that are currently sailing. There's the ones that are trying to make JavaScript faster, and then there's the ones who are writing the same tools but in Golang or Rust, which is actually fast. And those two boats are currently like going their separate ways and trying to make the experience better. But like there was the State of JS survey that was put out somewhere in, can't remember when, but the results came in and there was like a surging rise in Rust developers writing JavaScript also, or like JavaScript developers writing Rust, because they are writing their tools again with a language that can actually perform like JavaScript.
Yeah, I think there's longevity in Rust. I think it's worth learning, especially with it going into the kernel now. But it's, I imagine maybe like in the data field, maybe there'll be tools that are written in Rust and maybe use like something like Python to then interact with that tool. You know, like maybe there's some kind of Rust like pipeline or something that actually drives the data, but then maybe you plug Python into that pipeline to then transform that data or something within that Rust runtime. I don't know, I'm talking like completely hypothetically, but like, I think it's worth learning for sure. And you definitely learn how the lower level sort of way things are kind of working, and it's very similar to Go. I think Go is kind of like an in-between like something like Python or JavaScript, and then you have Go, which is between those and Rust, which is super good to learn, I think. And a lot of the tools that I use are written in Go, so like I do a lot of time doing Kubernetes stuff, and obviously there's a lot of tooling that gets installed into Kubernetes, and all of that runs in Go, and it's pretty comfy to, you have like some weird error and then you can go read the source code or something. So that's like another reason why I kind of want to learn a bit of Rust. When maybe there is some issues with some tool I use, I can try and go look at the actual source code and try and understand what's going on.
Yeah, that was my reasoning for learning Scala, because like a lot of the data tooling were built with that like earlier, but maybe now it's transforming into Rust. So let's see. I'll stick with Python for a while, and Python and the old trusty Java.
And then Python's got to be the most comfy language known to man. It's
My man, have you tried Java?
They're comfortable for two different reasons. Two opposite reasons.
Gotta love my job security.
I just can't get excited about Java.
I mean, like, it's when you get into like when you have worked with it for like multiple years, you're like know everything about the tools you're using. So comfy because you know the tooling you are using and everything around it. So you don't have to like Google anything. Like I never, like the only time I Google something is because I just can't be asked to look at the documentation, to look at the syntax of some functions. But like I have all of the solutions for everything at my fingertips. Unlike when I'm working with JavaScript, when I'm like, what kind of libraries do I need to get anything done?
That's the biggest problem I have with JavaScript. You Google something and you have like a answer, and then maybe you read more into that answer, and then someone says, no, you don't do it that way anymore. You use like this new tool or something. And I feel with the JavaScript ecosystem, I end up chasing someone else's tail kind of thing, and they're chasing their own tail as well. And it's just,
I mean, it's a good message of an ecosystem problem. Where like a lot of developer communities I belong to, the JavaScript TypeScript channels are always filled with like, okay, I'm starting a project. What starter do I use nowadays? When in like Java land, you're like, Maven archetype generate, boom, it's ready.
Get that Spring Boot loaded in, boy.
Yeah. Just like there's like only a couple of frameworks you can like that are being used, and those are like really comfy to get started with.
Do you think
and
that
they use like
JavaScript will evolve like that? Like JavaScript's still relatively new compared to something like Java. Do you think at some point the way to work with Java they'll iterate so much with all of these different tools and approaches to doing something that maybe JavaScript would end up with the de facto way to do stuff? Or do you think it's just going to be constant new tooling, new ways of doing things, and no one really settling on a standard?
I think the problem is that like if you want to do anything on the web, everybody's having to use JavaScript, and that's why it's so adopted and so approachable and so like so everywhere pretty much. And I feel like it's gonna be a problem forever. But there's also this like new wave of JavaScript approaches which is people writing something like Golang or Java or Rust, and then compiling that into WASM, which is like WebAssembly, which is kind of like a faster version of code being able to be run in the browser as a TLDR. And people are writing other languages than JavaScript to pretty much do the same thing that JavaScript is doing. So there's like one wave that is doing that, so they're not really writing JavaScript, they're kind of avoiding writing JavaScript and using other tools to do the same thing. And then there's the other ship that's just like creating another JavaScript tool every single week. So I don't think we'll get away from the tooling hell ever in JavaScript land, but I feel it's standardizing now. Like people are using more and more standardized tools and not like these bloated libraries like, well, I don't want to start a flame war, so I'm not going to name any.
I'm kind of interested with that that Deno project where the original was it the original Node.js guy?
Yeah,
he started.
It was the creator of Node.js created a project called Deno, which is just Node backwards, and he's trying to like fix everything he did wrong with Node.js.
Go back.
Marty, we gotta go back.
We gotta go back to the island. Yeah, I haven't looked into it, but it looks promising. And also there's some like JavaScript runtimes that are being promised to run like a lot faster than the runtimes we use nowadays.
Yeah,
and those are kind of exciting because, like, as much as I shit on JavaScript, writing JavaScript is comfy. You can get a lot done fast, especially with the native Node.js libraries, it's like I need file system access, import file system, read file sync. Okay, I got a file. I want to write it, write file sync. Everything just works. So, like, compared to Java, where you have to, like, Google every time you have to read a file from disk and copy paste the whole shebang to get started. It's easier nowadays, but it's like still kind of iffy.
Yeah, that's
how
like,
it feels with Rust.
That's my struggle with Java, is that like with Python I'm just used to like with open file name and the file is open. Like, and then I go to Java and like, how am I supposed to know that there's a like a file IO buffer?
Yeah.
It's like, well, now that I know that it exists, like of course
I mean, like I don't want to even use the buffered readers or anything, and they're kind of cumbersome. But like a lot of my day-to-day Java development is around web technologies and like JAX-RS and Java EE APIs. So I don't really have to do all of that stuff a lot in my day job, and it's mostly like data wrangling and just putting the data in the right spot and having a good like control flow on your code, and that's like really comfy with Java.
You just described my whole 9 to 5.
Data wrangling. I mean, that's all it ever is, though, right?
Yeah.
It always feels like it's some kind of state management or something. So it's all the same after a while.
Yeah. Take this message here, send these messages there, take this data there, put this data in this format, like.
Take it from
maybe do a couple of checks down the line, and it's
comfy though sometimes.
It's like comfy when you get into the flow of things and just like write and create like beautiful contraptions.
Yeah, I guess that's why it's also nice to learn new things, because you do go back to that struggle bus where you're not comfy anymore, and you do feel like a bit of an idiot, and you do have to Google like the most basic things, like how do I read in a file and stuff. That's how it, like with Rust, like learning that I felt really dumb. Like, oh yeah, I'll just read in this file and like just skim read the docs, and the Rust docs are really good, but you're like, oh yeah, like you just totally like cocky about it. Oh yeah, I'll just skim read the docs. Yeah, I see how that works, and then you get bitten because there's like the way Rust handles like errors and stuff, and you have the optionals, and you have to unwrap things, and then you don't understand like the parsing by reference and stuff and the ownership model, so you end up giving ownership to some other function. And yeah, I understand like the concepts, and I understand like why the memory, like the kind of ownership model works and why it's good, but it feels really foreign to me at the moment, and it feels like I'm having to relearn everything all over again with programming.
Yeah, I mean, at least Rust is pretty good at telling you that these are the issues that you have, like that you are borrowing a mutable or immutable object, like when you shouldn't, and not like that you're running it and running into an errors.
I mean, the best part of Rust is compiler.
Yeah.
Compiler error. It's the best I've seen.
I just saw some YouTube video. I think the title was something that the Rust compiler teaches you how to code.
Yeah. Was it the one where they like just pasted JavaScript into
I didn't watch.
There's like a video on YouTube where they paste a whole JavaScript file into a Rust file, and then they just like start reading the Rust errors and port it into Rust using only the compiler's helps.
Yeah.
It's crazy how good it is.
Yeah, but I'm enjoying it. It's a really good programming language. It feels like it has a pretty good community around it and ecosystem with a really good toolchain, and yeah, I'm definitely enjoying it. I actually ordered a Raspberry Pi Pico to write some embedded Rust onto it, so I'll share some video of me making the LED flash with some bare metal code running or something.
Yeah,
2,500 lines of Rust code to get the LED blinking.
Yeah, it'll probably take a whole weekend of to figure out how to make the LED blink. Yeah.
But do you
I need
guys...
to eat some of my... Oh, sorry. I'm just going to eat some of my burrito. Hang on. So the audio in this bit won't be usable because it's just fucking...
Well, I'm gonna take a piece then.
But I mean,
Guy, he's flowing with the urine. To be fair, they fucked the order up, but still tastes damn good.
Well, Larry, was there something you wanted to talk about? You kind of looked like you were trying to open up a conversation.
nah, it was nothing. It was nothing.
I have something I want to talk about. Let me finish this rap.
Alright.
But like, one of those, like, we were talking about those long form YouTube content about programming that actually, like, hits the nerve when you're, like, years deep into programming. There's this channel on YouTube called JDH, which has, like, well, he started his YouTube career by writing, like, Minecraft in 48 hours with no game engine, just C and OpenGL, and went from there and started, like, going lower level, and then he wrote a whole operating system just to run Tetris, and he built his own graphics card from breadboards, and it's like this stupid content that you're like, yeah, this would be cool, but this is not useful in any way, a useful use of my time, but seeing somebody else do it is fun.
So, which part of the OS creator pipeline is he? Has he gone insane yet?
I mean, he had like a video where he was like, there's the It Works video on his channel where they're like, it's like 4 a.m. If there's a smiley face on that TV, that means the graphics card works. And then there's a smiley face on the TV, and there's like a maniacal small laughter of just being so fucking tired of this project, but getting it to work.
What, 4 a.m.? That can't be man's worst struggle. That has to be 4 a.m. on the second night already that he stayed up. It's 4 a.m. struggles. That's like weekly or monthly almost.
I think he said it's 2 a.m. on a Monday morning, and I think he had a day job at that point.
Oh boy.
My man's writing an operating system. What is he gonna do at his 9 to 5?
Yeah, but like that kind of content kind of hits me. Just there's stupid cool projects where we're just doing stuff just because, and having enough viewership to keep it alive.
I really like content like that. I find it way more interesting than
Day in the life of a software engineer.
Yeah, I can't watch
and not
anything like
writing a single line of code like, what did you do? And staying at the campus for like 12 to 15 hours.
I mean, I can relate to that influencer struggle. I was trying to show some code today, but I just can't.
Yeah, well,
like
yeah.
Sometimes that's the truth in those videos. Like they don't show them coding because they can't. But like yeah, I know that there's a lot of these fang or manga companies that their employees make these day in the life videos, and it's just like they stay there for like 14 hours just because they have breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and play ping pong at every turn.
Yeah.
I mean, there's some jobs that you can do things like that, I guess.
But you can, but like those videos must be from their first week. because I worked at office that has like pool tables, foosball, all kinds of stuff, like all the gaming consoles and VR that you can imagine. After the first week, you never use them.
Yeah, well,
those are just
maybe.
collecting dust.
Maybe it gets to 4 p.m. on a Friday and you organize something, but yeah.
I mean, the nice thing about like our company is just like 5 people, and we have a comfy office, and everybody knows each other beforehand and everything. We have a PlayStation 5 at our office, and like there's people who actually play full games through on that PlayStation 5 because they don't have a PlayStation 5 at home. So they might be like taking a longer lunch break or staying after work to play it. But like you don't do that unless you have like a 5-person office. If you have like a 100-person company, nobody's gonna use that fucking PlayStation 5. Maybe after the sauna on a Friday afternoon, but like never else.
That reminds me of like why you don't do it is because when we were like 10, like 15 years ago, every time we were on like some vacation stuff in some resort or on a boat, cruise boat or something, we didn't have consoles at home, so there was always this like PlayStation 1. And I remember me and Matias, we always started some game there. We were playing there. Then our parents came to pick us up from there. And like an hour later, when we got back, someone has started a new save on top of ours. And then we have to start over again. That's.
I mean, like
you can only have one save.
Yeah,
you can't.
Those were the days. That's how I imagine like gaming at the office.
Yeah. I mean, like we had like at my previous employer, we had like a Super Nintendo Mini at the office, and there was a couple of old school gamers who were trying to get through some like Ghosts and Goblins or some really hard game, and they had just like paused the game to go to a meeting and just left a post-it note in the middle of the TV to be like, "Do not reset. We're in the middle of a good run." And everybody just like respected it and didn't touch the whole console for the whole day. So they could finish the run.
Oh yeah. Last episode you were making fun of me that I just won't use Vim. But Sam,
Still.
do you know what me and Matias are that you are not? A public speaker. Like, what are you scared of speaking in public? You do it all the time. Scared of getting on stage and saying a couple of words?
I mean, if the opportunity arises, I'll do it. I don't.
I mean,
I've always found it difficult to find like something I could actually talk on.
I mean,
you can talk about anything because like everybody's always looking for speakers, and there's not enough speakers in tech because nobody wants to fucking share about their stuff.
Yeah, but I always feel like the things that I could talk about, I don't know, like are so trivial and basic, like it wouldn't be interesting to anyone.
but I mean, there's different kind of speakers, and then there's like, because if you compare me and Matias, well, Matias is big in the web components communities, and everyone knows that, so he's getting invited to talk about that a lot. But for me, like in the data field, I'm passionate about where the field is going in total. Like I want to steer it into the right direction. So I'm giving like these really general talks, and I'm like seeking to give talks. So you don't always need to be like the high level guy who, like the guru who is gonna give a talk about some topic that he knows best. Because when you, even though it's like a half an hour or 45 minutes talk, you will realize that you can't cover much at all in that time. So
Yeah, you can't cover shit.
the topics have to be really narrow, or they are really like entry level.
I feel like it's all about what your audience is. Like you could go talk about setting up your CI/CD pipelines in GitHub Actions to a front-end meetup because maybe a lot of front-end developers haven't done it, but it could be useful for them. But do that in a DevOps meetup, and everybody's like, what next? But like it's a lot about the audience in that matter.
I mean, I'll be happy to do it. Like, I think I need to find like a conference that has, like you said, a suitable audience, and then I could pick a subject that I'll be able to talk on. But at the end of the day, Lauri still can't use Vim, so...
Lauri just dodging the question here.
Lauri comes in at me hella sideways, and he hasn't got a leg to stand on, you know? So
I have my reasons for not using Vim.
Yeah, you're a smooth brain.
Well, that too, but I need, because I work with data and oftentimes like CSVs or Excel files even, I need to have an easy way to see those. So for me,
my man, you're an accountant, bro. That's
well, trust me, I don't want to be looking at those Excels, but I have to.
I mean, like you could just learn the Vim bindings. Like in my 9 to 5, I use IntelliJ, but I use Vim bindings, and it's so much more comfy writing it like that.
Yeah, I mean, I use a lot of things. Like I've set up it comfortable so that I can focus on terminal, make it full screen, go back to code, like, and of course there's like go to file, like the basics. I'm just like, but I'm still using arrow keys. I think that's like the
oh, that's disgusting.
I mean, it's like it's fine. It's fine. Like I feel like when you get used to JK, but where you get used to that, it's fine to use arrow keys.
The one problem I had was when I started going into Vim and using the Vim bindings was obviously the whole goal is to spend less time using your mouse so you can be more efficient. And when I started doing that, I started to get pains in my forearm because I think my arms were just so static and stuck in that one position for so long. Yeah, so if you have that issue, if you start learning Vim, I can recommend using a split keyboard. I moved to a split keyboard. That's another thing you have to learn. It's not, you can't just pick up a split keyboard and start using it as efficiently as you could use like a normal keyboard. And I guess it's orthogonal, you know, when the keys are in a grid rather than staggered.
Yeah.
So that, yeah, there was a learning curve of it, but yeah, once I transitioned to a split keyboard, it was a game changer for me, and I can use Vim for hours.
Yeah, and I know sure as hell that I'm not using the whatever it's called, like the 10-finger keyboard stuff that you need to use when using a split keyboard, because at that point you can't like go overboard with your hands. You can't go on your right side with your left hand and vice versa.
Oh yeah, so using a split keyboard makes you a way better typist. Like in what would be the term? You know, the proper way to type, I guess. You have to use all of your fingers in the correct, most optimal way. But of course, people can type just as fast doing it their own way, I guess. But yeah, I like my split keyboard. It's very comfy.
I'm like I have a custom built keyboard myself at home, and I feel like the switches I currently have on them, I can't remember for shits what they are. I think like they are perfect for my typing experience because they're like light enough but heavy enough for my typing, and I don't feel any fatigue after 4 to 5 hours, right? And I haven't felt the need for a split keyboard, but like having a wrist rest and a proper keyboard with proper travel distance and everything is just so comfy.
Yeah, I have a mix of the linear switches and for like the A to Z keys, the alphabet, and then for all of like the function keys and shift and space bars and things like that, I have browns, so they have a tactile bump. So it's
Did it come like that, or do you actually have a preference?
When I ordered it, you could choose what keys you like, what switches you wanted, and I went for browns. But then I've used the linear switches before and I kind of missed them, so I bought a pack of linears, and then the keyboard's hot swappable, so you can just pull the switches out if you want and change it up. So yeah, it's a bit custom for me, I guess.
I don't know if I would be able to use linear. Like, I just need the tactile bump there. Might be just because I played so much like MOBAs and RTS games where you have to like have the registration of the key.
Oh, bro, like they're really they feel weird the first few days, and then you get used to them, and you're like, yeah, I can't apply these.
Yeah, can imagine.
I think Lauri's been quiet because he just has that Microsoft Dell basic keyboard and mouse because he's just scrolling through spreadsheets all day.
You know that wireless curved keyboard with the business written in the center.
Yeah. Numpad also.
Yeah.
That hotkey that he can press to open Skype.
Holy shit.
Yeah, that's what I need on a boot up. Skype. Excel.
Spin up his Windows machine.
Change the registries to open Satisfactory instead of Skype from the button.
Yeah, Microsoft app.
Customer meeting getting boring. Just press the Satisfactory button and get booted into the game.
Sorry, Lauri.
No matter how tempting it is, and everyone would think that who don't work in tech, that they just stay home and they can do whatever during the day. It's like I would never really like game when I need to work.
Yeah. Like when you have to actually do your 9 to 5, you do your 9 to 5.
Oh yeah, for sure. It's a slippery slope. If you do it once, you're gonna do it again, and then if you're working from home, you have to have that discipline. Otherwise, yeah, you're gonna end up pulled into a meeting with HR, I guess.
Yeah. But then again, there's like some of those days where like after the 10 a.m. meeting, you're like, I really feel like gaming a little bit, and then you go on a 2-3 hour gaming binge and then just like continue work until like 7 p.m. or something, just like feeling refreshed after that.
Oh yeah, I don't think there's any problem with taking like an extra break or something if you're in that mindset where you can't apply your brain, then you should just have a break, because you're just wasting your own time and the company's time by just sit there and doing nothing. You might as well play like a video game or go for like a walk or something, touch grass, whatever you got to do, and then like come back. I find that really helpful if you're like stuck on like a problem and stuff. Just take a break, like maybe like make a nice snack or something, and like a nice cup of tea, and then come back to it.
That's kind of why I like being at our office, because at our office, again, we have 5 people, so everybody pretty much comes to the office every day. And when you kind of get slumped with something, you can just like get up and start talking shit to somebody else who got slumped at the same time. So.
Oh yeah. Every time I used to go in the office, I never got any work done. It was just like turn up, and then people just talking, maybe like some idea they have that they don't necessarily want to like set up a meeting to talk about because it's still not like a proper idea yet or something. So you ended up like talking to people and like drawing shit on a whiteboard and stuff, and then your boy like walks over and he's like, yeah, what we doing for lunch? And then you're like, discussing lunch, and then you go for lunch, and like lunch.
The classic 3-hour lunch break, and
of course
grab a couple pints while you're at it.
Yeah, but you're talking about work while you're there and stuff.
Yeah, and then it's about time for 2 p.m. sauna, so about wrap up for the day.
Yeah, it's a hard life, I guess.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Coming to this topic from like, saying that people who don't work in tech think that we don't work, really.
I mean, then you're just on the weekend shift at that point.
My girlfriend's actually learning to code at the moment because her job like sounds really hard, to be fair. And
What is she doing?
She works with people, so.
Oh, that's hard. Holy shit. Say no more.
She works for a big pharmaceutical company and provides support around the products that they sell. I won't say any more than that, but yeah, it's obviously like anything within the medical industry is a super tough job. You know, like the stakes are massive and the pressure is immense and the money's pretty tight. So yeah, they're always up against it. But yeah, she's like learning to she's learning React actually, and like the whole web stack of JavaScript and HTML and CSS and things. So yeah, I think she kind of saw how happy I am in my role and was like, yeah, I want to have a bit of that. But I don't think she realizes that maybe with her job it's quite consistent, the stress, whereas like I feel like in the tech industry or maybe anything where you're building things and you have like a deadline, you have like these, like the stress comes in waves. Like maybe you have like a quarter that's pretty stress free and like the tasks that you have to achieve in that quarter are pretty easy and chill, and then maybe the next quarter you have like a big product and some like launch or new feature that needs to be get done, and then suddenly you're working till like 10, 11 o'clock at night to get things working, and then it's like 2 days before it's got to be released and you're doing some last minute QA, and then you figure out that it's actually all broken and stuff, and yeah, the stress then is like immense.
Yeah, I mean, it's you kind of, you shouldn't choose it for like because it seems comfortable or easy, because you should just choose your own struggles. And if you enjoy that kind of deadlines and you like the process of building these new features, then like, yeah, of course, always when the deadlines come, the stress is high in those moments. But if you don't enjoy what you are doing, then like it's, why even put any effort, or it can really burn you out.
Yeah, she's enjoying though, like just like building simple little web pages and learning things and putting it together. I think that's what draws a lot of people in.
I mean, it must be so satisfying because like the feedback loop in front-end development is so fast. Just like write boop 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 something on the site and it just gets displayed to you instantly. So the gratification hits so hard.
I think I'll say first, like I think front end is, look, once you get into front end, I think you have a lot of the same problems that you have in back end development. Like with the front end, you don't have a database, but you have a whole state that you need to manage. So there's a lot of crossovers with the problems that people have front and back end. But what I will say is I think the barrier to entry to back end development is so much higher to front end. Front end, you can spin up like something in like Notepad.exe or something, and load that up into your web browser, and you have something running. It might be something simple, but to start achieving stuff on the back end, like you have to somehow spin up a developer environment with all of the services that you need. Like, oh, you want to store data? You better learn how databases work, boy, because you're about to be dealing a lot with them. So you have to manage your local database and stuff. I remember when I started out, you go down some deep rabbit holes and you end up somewhere.
I think like the learning curves are that like for front-end developer it's like a slower learning curve than in back-end developer, but like it kind of like plateaus at some point, so they kind of even out at like the mid-level to like more expert level, and then it starts to be like they both have problems that are really hard to solve. And but for beginners, the front-end side's troubles are really not all that hard compared to a lot of back-end side's troubles. Like a lot of back-end languages tend to be statically typed, so you have to like learn all of the mess around typing and everything, unless you're using something like Python or Node.js. But in front-end, you can just like write JavaScript and go with it and trust everything works.
Yeah, I've decided that I'm going to try and learn a bit of React with her. Just to, I always feel like that's one of the biggest things I'm kind of missing in my sort of arsenal, or like that toolbox that you have. Like I could write like back end stuff. I can do like DevOps. I can build like cloud infrastructure, but man, I suck at CSS. I find it really, really difficult. So I'm hoping this year I can improve that skill a little bit, because
I mean, I even know front end developers who suck at C. So there's that.
But I think I've also made that like goal for myself this year to make my work more visual, because like when I work with data, it's in the database, but like the processes, what's happening in the data pipelines, it can be impressive if you are interested of the topic, but like it's not really visual. Like someone who doesn't understand anything out of it will not really like see what happens. And that
to impress the suits, you have to have something visual.
Yeah. You want to like make a product. And to have a product, you have to have something tangible, don't you? Something someone can see or something. So yeah, I totally get you. Like there's so many things that I've worked on, or I mean, like a good example is that people start doing CI/CD within companies, and then they're like, oh yeah, really happy with it and stuff, but then they want to gain like insight into it, and then they pull in like a data scientist. Like they want to understand the metrics of this CI/CD. They want like, how frequently are we deploying, and what's slowing us down from deploying more. So you pull in that kind of data guy to grab that data and then build those visualizations around it, and then they can understand it. So it's like the same thing. And I completely agree with you, Lauri, like wanting to learn a bit of front end stuff just so you can make things a bit more of a product and make it more approachable to maybe people that don't want to read things on the command line.
Yeah, I mean, and it's the easiest way to actually understand something like visually. Like if it's just lines of data, it's really difficult to pull any like insights out of it. But when it's actually like visual, easy to understand, then like it will, if it's built on a good back end, then a good front end will bring up the good parts of the back end.
Oh, I think that's I think you can have a good front end without having a good back end.
I mean, you can go that route, yeah.
That's called a MERN stack.
But,
MongoDB, Express, React, and Node.js.
But a good front end to a good back end is like the cherry on top. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I understand.
like I have so much trouble because I like in my open source stuff I build tooling for front end developers, and the problem is that nowadays I don't really get to write any front end code myself. Like the only front end code I write is like library code for our customer or some like parsers for our front end code. But not actual front end code. So when I'm writing the tools, I have to like interview actual front end developers and be like, what the fuck do you want this tool to do? Because I have no idea, because I haven't touched front end in like 2 years. And it gets so hard because like front end isn't really just front end nowadays. There's a term called back of front end, which is like all of the logical parts of the front end, and the front of front end is being like perceived as the design and everything outside of that. So it's kind of like clustering the front end into 2 parts already, and then there's like the tooling part, which is like the third part of front end, pretty much. It's just a mess nowadays.
Things get really complicated when you start doing things with like WebSockets and handling the state that you and that data that you receive, and we're not in the MySpace really basic world anymore. Some nice
like,
HTML and CSS.
It's like there was a saying that you either quit a front-end developer or you live long enough to see yourself writing your own state management system. It's always the same.
Yeah.
So to wrap up, I have 2 questions. This year, conferences and certificates, if any, or which ones?
Ooh.
For certificates, I think this year I will actually try to do a couple of GCP ones because there's some interest in those in our company, and we have GCP running on our in-house stuff, and I know this stuff, but I just need to get the certs out of the way.
Yeah, I mean, just this week a thought crossed my mind that just give me the exam, I crush it. But I feel like it's gonna be a bit of a bigger commitment than that. But I feel like when I worked in the field and worked with the tools, it's not that big of a struggle than because they often have quite realistic requirements, like maybe 4 years in the field, and people have been in the field for 2 years, and then they try to just study the exam and get the cert out of that. So I guess what they are saying, even though back in the days it sounds like they are overqualifying these requirements, it actually makes sense. So what, GCP for you?
Yeah, GCP for. How about Sam?
Yeah, I don't have. Well, I did some certificates at the end of last year. I did some GitLab ones. I found them kind of, for me, I guess they're kind of more like a necessity than actually learning, because I kind of need them for my role as a consultant, I guess. But I've wanted to do for a while now the certified Kubernetes administrator stuff. I've read most of it, and I've managed clusters before, so it shouldn't be too difficult, but it's always a thing about finding time. And
or some picky questions that you might not use in your day-to-day job, but it's gonna be.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, it's mostly finding time, really. It's pretty easy to dedicate all of my time to I guess actual work that's bringing in actual revenue, I guess. But so I don't know, I don't want to dedicate anything or say anything and be held to it, because Lauri will come down on me in 6 months' time.
Nah, this is not an accountability group.
Oh, fair enough.
Just for my own interest.
I mean, I have on my wish list, I'd like to do the Kubernetes ones. I do a lot of AWS stuff, so it would be nice to actually have the certificates to, then I have that piece of paper that says that I can actually do AWS rather than just saying and doing, I guess.
Yeah.
And then conferences, I haven't made any plans this year to attend anything, but I really want to. I'll probably do one of the AWS summits. There's one in London. It'll be nice to find one that's interesting to go to and find someone to go with, because you two guys are in Finland and I'm here in England. So maybe you could fly out and we could go to something here. I don't know.